Hello, and welcome to the KCSA Mental Health Virtual Investor Conference. My name is Allison Sauce, and on behalf of KCSA Strategic Communications, as well as our co-host OTC Markets Group, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from nDatalyze Corp. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the box to the left of the slides. If you're interested in scheduling a meeting with nDatalyze, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You will be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Jane Stewart, President and CEO of nDatalyze Corp, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol NDATF and on the CSE under the symbol NDAT. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Allison, and welcome everybody to today's presentation. I'm Jim Durward, the president of nDatalyze Corp, and I'm here today to talk about YMI, our recently released predictive mental health application that has the potential to fundamentally change the way mental health is diagnosed and treated. YMI is an advanced pre-diagnostic tool that has two applications. On a consumer basis, to empower people with self-knowledge to improve their mental well-being and elevate their peace of mind. And on a clinical basis, as a pre-diagnostic tool to help reduce the high misdiagnosis rates that plague the mental health system. But in order to fix a problem, we first need to know the causes of the problem. And for some reason, I see what it is, pardon me. The obligatory disclaimer, read it on your own time when you look at the presentation later. The problems. Misdiagnosis rates. These rates are published by the Public Library of Medicine in the United States. For common mental conditions, you can see that the misdiagnosis rates, that is, the times that the diagnoses are wrong, are over 60% of the time, and in some cases over 90% of the time. This is a huge problem. If you can imagine going to your doctor and getting a misdiagnosis of stomach cancer, for example, and you don't have it. And the problem with misdiagnosis is that after misdiagnosis comes misprescription, the prescription of the wrong drugs. And the wrong drugs can cause really, really negative side effects and even cause new mental conditions. Further to that, Johns Hopkins says that greater than 60% of those diagnosed with major depressive disorder don't qualify for the condition. So that is a huge misdiagnosis rate, and we believe that this is a fundamental cause of the overload of the mental health system. So what are the causes of the diagnosis problem? Well, in the physical health world, those with greater need go to the front of the line. This is called triage. Need is established by objective tests that provide measurable severity levels. It doesn't work this way in the mental health world. The mental health world relies on subjective data that doesn't provide severity levels, meaning triage is compromised. You can't tell who's got the most severe case, so you can't put the most severe need to the front of the line. This means that low severity cases have the same priority as high severity cases, with low severity cases consuming resources that would be better applied to those with higher need. To put this into perspective, imagine going to the hospital with a heart attack and having to wait behind a line of people that got there before you, but only had a common cold. That's essentially how it works in the mental health world. So the very first thing we need is objective data. Then we have clinical bias. Every human being on this planet is biased in some way or another. Our own experiences, our own processing engine, the way that we correlate our experiences together come out with a certain amount of bias because it only relies on our own opinions that are based on our own data. So everybody has a bias, and one clinician can come out with a diagnosis and another clinician presented with the same data can come out with a different diagnosis. That is a problem, just in itself, is bias. So we want to get rid of bias if we can. The lack of deep correlation, and this is the ability of a human to try to figure out the effect of certain combinations of events in your life related to other groups of events in your life. This is a very, very difficult task for a human. Machines have no problem doing this. Machines are very, very accurate. They're consistent, they're fast, and they don't get distracted. This is the kind of task that's set up for machines, and this is why we use AI-based algorithms in order to perform all of these correlations in order to come to a more informed pre-diagnosis opinion. As far as distractions and lack of time are concerned, well, consider that if you're seeing a family doctor for a mental diagnosis, which is very often the case, consider that the doctor probably has very little mental condition training and has only an average of about 10 minutes to come to a diagnosis. Remember those misdiagnosis rates? But despite these limitations, doctors often prescribe powerful psychotropic drugs. It's a trial and error system where the patient is the guinea pig. Misprescriptions don't help the patient or the mental health system. At the end of the day, the mental health system is essentially an analog system that's based on subjective data. What we really need is a digital system based on objective data, and that's what YMI promises to provide. With these causes in mind, we created a human-machine hybrid to predict an individual's present and future probabilities of common mental conditions. In effect, we digitized the pre-diagnostic process. Knowing probabilities allows people and therapists to quickly and inexpensively address the underlying causes of an apparent condition and move on to appropriate treatment, which in turn can help improve individual mental wellness, while at the same time reducing the misdiagnosis loops that are clogging the system. So, what's inside? Well, we take a holistic approach. In order for a human-machine hybrid to function properly, it has to have an experience database. And we populated the memories of this system with the biometric data from over 1,200 individuals, males, females, 4 different age groups. There is ethnicity representation in the database. We take everything from genetic expressions through all of the life experiences, childhood upbringings, traumas, everything that affects a person's life and why they are the way they are. We augmented that with EEG data, brainwave data, because we don't want to know what we think is going on inside someone's mind. We want to know what's actually going on inside someone's mind. So we take the biometric data, we augment it with EEG data. That provides the memories or the database upon which we're going to base our predictions. The predictions are made by a predictive expert system, and the algorithms that are used to score, that are used to guide the machine learning that some people will call AI, but it's supervised machine learning. And we had a number of people that were involved in that scoring system. These are all professionals in their fields. Myself, I'm a data scientist. Sometimes people ask me what makes me think that I'm qualified to opine on mental diagnostic matters. And my answer is simply this. It's not what I do. I look after data. I let the data say what the data is going to say. I don't have an opinion on these matters. I just let the data speak for itself. Remember, it's objective data. These are not opinions based on opinions based on opinions. These are actual objective facts that the data represents. We have a psychologist, Dr. Carol Malik, a double board certified psychiatrist, Dr. Keith Courtney. We have an EEG interpretive specialist, Dr. Andrea Protzner, and an MD, of like family doctor with Dr. Kelty Duggan. These are the professionals that provided the input to create the scoring algorithms for the machine learning / AI processes. Now, let's get onto business for a moment. I talked about the consumer application. There is a movement in the world called the mHealth movement. This movement is populated by those persons who are very concerned about taking control of their own health, not just mental health, but physical health as well, just general health. And they seek out and buy devices and services that give them more self-knowledge. They want to know more about themselves. They want to take things into their own hands a little bit more. So we have the mHealth market that has developed. Inside this market, we have wearable devices like Apple Watch, Fitbits, Oura Rings, things like that will give you readings, current readings on what's going on in your body right at this point in time. And they often have tracking systems as well, so you can track what's going on in your body over different time frames. We have telehealth. Telehealth is the ability to get your treatments and your diagnoses done online. There's a lot of these services. All they are, telehealth services, is a digital representation of the way things are done today. They don't look at cause for conditions, and they don't look at severity of conditions. They just run through some very minor questionnaires and direct you to a therapist through the internet versus having to physically go there. So there's no real giant advance there other than the fact that you don't have to get in your car and drive down somewhere. We have brain monitors for biofeedback, things like the Muse device, which is shown here in this picture. This actually is the device that we use to gather up the EEG data that we have in our proprietary reference database. Then, of course, everybody knows about the DNA tests. DNA tests are very interesting, but they are a very, very small part of a human's self. You definitely have genetic predispositions. We all do, but they don't take into account any lifestyle factors. They cannot predict any type of severity. So they have a very, very limited use in a quantitative objective world. And then, of course, we have the standard blood tests and heart rate monitors, things like that. So these are the kind of things that make up the mHealth market. And this is where YMI is targeted to go into the same people that buy these devices, the mHealth market. How big is it? Well, today the mHealth market's around 50 billion. It's projected to go to about 130 billion within the next 8 years. As you can see in the light blue bars, the biggest growth is projected into the applications, mental health applications, and that's where YMI is. So not only does YMI offer an advanced solution to the mental health misdiagnosis problem, but it is also in the right place at the right time. So it becomes really a question of how do we get it into the market? But before we get there, we'll talk about competition for a moment. We don't have any direct digital online competition for what it is that we do. Our competition is the standard analog diagnostic process, our pre-diagnostic process. Our system does not generate diagnoses. It is a pre-diagnostic tool. Final diagnosis is always done by a registered professional, who are the only people that are qualified and certified to make an actual diagnosis. But this is a very, very deep tool. And to show you how deep it is, let's take a look at this chart here. Very top item is anonymity. There's a certain amount of stigma around mental health conditions, and people are resistant to just blurt out that they've got some kind of a mental condition. People will be more than happy to tell you about a urinary tract infection, but they don't want to talk about anxiety. So anonymity is very important to that, and YMI is anonymous. If you go to a family doctor, you're likely to get a very short questionnaire, a subjective questionnaire. And the reason it's so short is because they don't have time to deal with anything long. And so what happens there is you'll fill out the form, the doctor will know it. So it's not completely anonymous, but it's generally considered to be an anonymous study, but also very, very shallow in depth. The number of questions analyzed. Again, we take a holistic approach, 250 questions with approximately 900 potential answers. If you calculate the possible combinations of that, it's in the billions. Humans are very, very good at abstract thought, but they're absolutely not good at doing that kind of grunt force or brute force correlation. Machines, of course, are set up to deal with that very efficiently, but they need the information in the first place. So we go deep into you in order for the machines to make a well-informed opinion, a probability prediction. Can you imagine trying to make a deeply correlated, highly probable prediction based on your answers to 17 questions? I personally don't like the odds of that. So, and as you go down further in this, you see all of the things that YMI provides that the other services don't provide. And again, we're using objective data versus subjective data. We have biometric correlations, deep biometric correlations, including brainwave correlations, genetic expressions, family histories, all of these different things. What we get down to further down on the list here, you can see future predictions. YMI not only predicts the probability of mental conditions today, 7 different mental conditions, but it also predicts out into the future based on the premise that if you continue with your current lifestyle going forward and don't make any changes, this is what is likely to happen to your mental state going forward for decades into the future. We can actually predict that. We also have what if capability, which means that it's possible for you to go into YMI, the system, after you've done your original questionnaire and change some of the answers. For example, like some very obvious things. I'm going to cut my drinking in half. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to increase my exercise. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to do all of these different things. What would happen if I did this? What would my mental probabilities look like going forward if I did this? You make those changes to the answers, you click the submit button, and about 40 seconds later, it will come back with new charts showing you the effect of these lifestyle changes before you ever make them. This is a what if engine, and no other system out there has this very, very powerful tool. And we generate graphic reports. So we don't just give you some obscure text explanation of what's going on. We actually show you graphically where you are in relation to the population. We do all of this very, very quickly at very, very low cost. You can see the cost associated with what we're talking about along the bottom line here. So in a nutshell, the consumer, mHealth consumer, answers the questionnaire. The questionnaire is submitted to the machines. 40 seconds later, the answer comes back and generates a series of reports. There's actually 8 pages of the reports in a report. And the patient can look at this as an annual mental examination, just like you would look at it at something as an annual physical examination. Until now, there hasn't been really an annual mental examination, but this could be looked at in that light. What does a report look like? What you have here is the front page of the report. Each one of those bars represents your probability of having of that particular mental condition. You can see there's anxiety, depression, PTSD, OCD, alcoholism, bipolar, and personality disorder. This person that filled this out, you can see that they're basically the highest rating that they've got, or the highest probability that they've got, are in anxiety, depression, OCD, and alcoholism. There is a dotted line that runs through this chart that you can see. That represents population normal for this age group. So, and that's taken from our reference database that we gathered up. And again, there was over 1,200 people in that database over the various age groups, equally divided over these age groups, more or less, and with ethnicity representation. So we're looking for deviation from baseline normal. And we can see that here. And that is a measure of severity. And this allows for mental condition triage. There are people that are worse off than others. which is, of course, completely normal. We see that in any kind of a society. There's going to be people that have high probabilities and people that have low probabilities for all kinds of things. So we put it out here on a chart. If you're in the middle for anxiety and depression, for example, as you see in this chart, over on the right-hand side, if you're in the yellow zone, there are a series of products and services that you can purchase, some of which we have an override on, some of which we don't. And we do it that way because our business model is based on YMI itself. It is not based on YMI being a collector that forces it into, say, a therapist registry where we take a piece of the therapist registry. Our product and our value add to the entire process is YMI charts and ability itself. If you're up in the red here, on the right-hand side again at the top, there are therapist directories. This therapy that we use is from Psychology Today. So if you're up there and you think that you need help for anxiety or depression or some other mental condition, you can click on there and it will show you a list of all the therapists in your area that are on Psychology Today's website, which is extensive, and you can be directed to a therapist of your choice. And that's what we present to you. This is the front page. Each one of these mental conditions that you see here has its own page that follows this in the report. And these are reports that predict your probability of developing a condition or seeing the effect of your readings on your condition going forward in time. This entire report is printable. You have all of the questions that were asked, all of your answers to those questions, and all of the charts that are associated with your answers to those questions. These can be presented to your doctor to provide a highly informed predictive opinion that the doctor can look at when coming to his or her final diagnosis. The distribution model. We plan to use brand ambassadors and influencers. We have actually just recently contracted a couple of influencers, and you'll see the effect of what they're doing come the new year. Social media platforms and campaigns, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Google Display Ads, video clips, TikTok, these type of social media platforms. We have campaigns that have started running in these on these platforms today. They're already running. We demographically target the digital ads. Our primary target are females with 2 children that are approximately 32 years old. That is the primary target. We know what the primary target is, and we know what the secondary and tertiary targets are because we hired a professional marketing firm to go out and find that information out. By looking across the mHealth industry and finding out who's buying what. So we did that in advance of the marketing campaign that we actually have going on right now. We are doing a graduated rollout because whenever you do this kind of a marketing campaign, there's going to be errors made. You will make mistakes. What you want to do is find your mistakes quickly, cut them off, and use your capital to enhance the factors that work as opposed to enhancing or paying for the factors that don't work. So we do that, we refine our approach, and we do that. We're doing that right now across Canada, and we want to finish that off by February of next year so that we can go into the US market fully prepared. Commercial channels are business to business. We look at synergistic products where we can cross-market, for lack of a better term. We look at mental health therapists. It's a client pay onboarding tool, and it can provide an additional revenue stream for those therapists. We will use traditional industry rags, I guess for lack of a better term, like Psychology Today, advertise in those magazines and advertise in their digital versions as well. This is how we plan to penetrate the market, but we are going after the consumer mHealth market first. Who's running the show? I am the president of the company. I am the person who developed the technology that sits behind and underneath YMI. Dusan Kuzma is my scientific bouncing board. Second thought questions me, considerably deep questions regarding things that are done technically in the system. Dwayne Vink is our CFO, long history of public company experience. Steve Price, I've worked with Steve for years in the past as well, an engineer with extensive public company experience. Gordon Crawford, also an engineer, lesser public company experience, but again, a scientific mind as sober second thought. And these are the people behind it. I want to mention here that this management team and board of directors, they're all shareholders of this company. Collectively, we have about 25% of the total company. There are no salaried workers here. We are aligned with the shareholders. Our benefit will come finally from the stock price appreciation. I personally take a small amount of money, which is equivalent to about $2,000 a month, but that's it. And as a result of that, we have a very, very tight cost structure, and we manage to squeeze the maximum value out of every dollar that we have. So our interests are aligned with the public. What have we done to date? Well, in March 21, we raised our financing for this project. We went through a variety of development situations, as you can see here on this list. I won't bother reading through them all for you. We did file a U.S. patent application, and we expect to have to argue that probably sometime within the next 6 months. We've completed our reference database, all with the EEG data. Of course, this is a very significant asset for the company. It doesn't show up in the books as an asset because it was expensed as it was built, but it's very, very important. That is a database that was built right in the heart of COVID. This is a very good mental health database that I don't think that there's any other database quite like it on the planet. It's very unique, totally proprietary, and a very, very high value. We built out the commercial products. We conducted the initial marketing. We finalized the supervised algorithms for the machines. We developed the user experience. Now, this was a very interesting thing, developing user experience, because you see a lot of websites today, including ours prior to doing what we did with the marketing people, where the websites are nonlinear, where you are not brought in from the advertising and handheld through a direct and short pass through the website. The marketing people spent a lot of time on this, and that has brought us to where the website is today. We launched YMI just very recently. When I say recently, I'm talking about the true launch happened at the beginning of October. We are refining and expanding our marketing approaches. We did achieve initial revenues, very small, but initial revenues nonetheless. And we began targeting marketing to clinicians. And that's going to expand quite a bit more as we go forward. During 2023, the whole point here is penetration. Refine the marketing approaches and accelerate all channels. Accelerate everything, grow our revenues. That's where we are today. And that is just about to begin. So some share metrics and highlights. Our market cap is relatively small at $8 million Canadian, call it $6 million US. Share price running around 20 cents Canadian. This is at the lower end of our range, but just barely. Our stock has held up fairly well considering the environment that junior companies are operating in right now. Market-wise, it's not a kind market out there right now, but we're doing fairly well in relation to our peers. You can see our chart there. And again, our highlights is we've launched the product, YMI. We have no debt. We're very tight cash management. We have a U.S. patent pending. We have a proprietary reference database. We have an advanced mental health product that's in the right place at the right time. And that all said, this is the end of the presentation. And I would now open the floor for questions. I have a question from, here it is. How do you connect your diagnosis platform and treatment? Well, as I stated earlier, is when we generate the predicted probabilities of mental conditions, uh, the individuals can see the results and they can click on the therapist directories and make their own choices in that regard. It's a very simple, streamlined process. I hope that answers that question. Can you speak to the potential for distribution partners' potential for a large licensing agreement? Well, that is something that I very much look forward to. Yes, I see YMI as an onboarding tool for all doctors and all psychotherapists in Canada and the United States. And when I say Canada and the United States, I say that because of the cultural nature of why you are the way you are. If we take our algorithms and we apply them to someone that is brought up in Europe, for example, or someone who's brought up in Southeast Asia, the answers are not going to be reliable because of the culture set of the people and their upbringings and the different natures of that. If we were going to offer this product in Asia, for example, we'd need to gather up and complete a database in Asia. So this is a Northern North America product. And yes, I look very forward to having it become the go-to onboarding tool for doctors and psychotherapists. Next question. Can you share any early results from YMI? No, unfortunately, I can't do that. This is stuff that will come out in the financial statements. What I can tell you is there is take up. It's slow. The reason it's slow is because it's a brand new product going into the market. And whenever you do that and you're in a refinement phase and you're in a geofenced phase, the take up is expected to be slow. We do see an increase in the take up, but we're not going to really see that until we go through the next couple of months as we refine and expand and bring on our influencers and expand our digital ads. Next question. Cash balance. Will you need to raise capital in 2023? Right now, our cash balance is sitting around $900,000. This is more than sufficient to get us through the pre-real launch phase. When I say pre-real launch, I'm talking about the launch into the United States. Marketing is expensive. We can get through our Canadian pre-marketing phase with the capital that we have on hand. Going into the United States, we're talking millions of dollars for a proper marketing plan for a program like YMI, which is set to replace the analog version of mental health pre-diagnostic systems. It's not going to be cheap to do that, and I do expect that there will be some financing involved in the early part of 2023. I don't know the details of that yet. I don't know the amounts just yet, but I think it's reasonable to think that that will occur. When do you expect the stock to start trading healthy with liquidity? Well, that's a very good question. We do have investor relations initiatives in place. We have what I'm going to refer to just frankly as a very poor junior market out there right now. There has never been a big investor relations volume push on our stock ever. So that kind of bump and high volume trading that goes on has yet to occur. Of course, we'd like more liquidity. People want more liquidity in the stock. And we're doing whatever we can to increase that. The thing about liquidity is this: volume begets volume. You have to have volume first. And then when that happens, generally speaking, in a relatively thin traded stock like ours, you are likely to see, with any kind of volume, significant price movements. And we expect that to happen, as you go through the processes to create that volume. You create demand for your stock. That's the investor relations people's job to do that. and then people start to come to the market. It's difficult to buy or sell our stock right now, but it can be done, and we expect that even a small amount of buying that comes into our market will drive the stock price. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's about the best I can do on the liquidity factor right now. That is the last question. And if there are no more questions, I'd again like to thank you all for coming to this presentation. And